my first experience in the direct sales network marketing profession was not Juice Plus. I was actually waiting tables one night, and a friend of mine that I went to school with told me about this company that was going to be in town, and everything happens for a reason. I got sent home that night early from waiting tables because it was slow. And I went to the meeting, and guess who I met? Jim Rohn, Mark Hughes, Larry Thompson. And I was involved in that company for a couple of years, and I wasn't a top earner, but I sat there and I heard stories, and I met people that were earning, average people that were earning these above average incomes. And I thought to myself, if they can do it, I can do it. And that company back in the mid 80s had some problems. Their sales had dropped 90%. And I stayed in, I was very loyal. I didn't want to leave. But it's one thing to be broke and then to have a little bit of money and then be broke again. And so I had to rebuild because that didn't work out for me. And I almost got out of the profession after that experience because everything that I looked at was a pop and drop. It was a deal of the week. It was the flavor of the month. It was here today and gone tomorrow. It was nothing that was stable and lasting like what we have here. And I almost got out, and then a friend of mine, by God's divine intervention, shared with me this company and these products. And it changed my life. And I left that company not wealthy financially, but wealthy in belief and skills, because I got to spend a couple years with Jim Rohn, and I started studying Zig Ziglar, and I started studying Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins, and I started feeding my mind. Jim Rohn talks about, a farm boy from Idaho milking cows only pays so much, but I was more valuable to the marketplace. So when I came to the Juice Plus company, I was wealthy. It's like if you had a briefcase with $1 million in it, and in the other briefcase was the skills of the type of person you'd have to become to earn $1 million, which briefcase would you take? The briefcase with the skills. Because the money can come and go. And so when I came into the company, back then it was the water filtration business. I don't know how many of you knew that. This company's been around for 50 years. Back in the 70s, it was smoke detectors, and then that became something that was just standard in every household, but they were the leader in that. They got into environmental products, clean water, clean air. And I came into the company, and they were 20 years old at the time. It wasn't a brand new company. It was a 20-year-old company. There was people doing very well in the company. And here came this 24-year-old kid that was hungry. The number one success ingredient I look into people for is somebody that's hungry, that has a desire, a willingness to work, and teachable. So when I came into the company, they were doing about $1 million a month. And within my first 2 or 3 years in the company, my group was doing over $1 million a day. And I just got off to a really, really fast start, moved a couple $1 billion worth of water filters. And then that dropped. And I lost over 500 national marketing directors. And I remember going to Jay, and I said, Jay, I got some of the best people in the profession here and in this team, and they're getting disillusioned and they're leaving.
And he said, Joe, if they're not in the company anymore, maybe they just need to find a new church.
And I said, that's not the answer I was looking for, Jay. And back then, we were very opportunity driven, and they were selling inventory, and people were, and Jay had to buy it all back. And as the sales were dropping, and Jay had to buy this inventory back, and people were leaving, one of the things I saw in Jay Martin was his true colors, his true character. Because most company presidents would have cashed out and called it a day. Not Jay. He kept this thing going. Now I went over into Europe as the North America sales were dropping and everybody was leaving, and started building in Europe. The girl I was dating at the time sat next to Dr. Smokey Santillo on an airplane, and he shared with her about the juice powders and the whole concept of turning juicing into a powder. Juice on the go is what he was going to originally call it. And and then all of a sudden I talked to Smokey. I signed a non-disclosure. I could have taken the product myself. I was already very well set financially and had a huge following in the profession, but I brought it to Jay, John Blair, Jay Martin, and that's how Juice Plus was born. And so I had to rebuild again. You understand what I'm trying to share with you? It hasn't been this for me. It was broke, had a little success, broke again, had to rebuild, shot it up again with the water, went down again, rebuilt again. How many of you had to rebuild? Anybody lose any people? So I'm telling you, it's a journey. You're going to go through that process where you're going to have to rebuild. There's different stages, there's different cycles, there's different seasons. You know, Jim Rohn has a great audio out called The Seasons of Life that I would encourage you to listen to. How many of you listened to How to Build Your Network Marketing Business by Jim Rohn? Fabulous. I've probably taken notes on that 50 times. It's not when you remember, it's when you can't forget. When it becomes part of your DNA. The birds are gonna get them. You guys haven't listened to it, all right. So let me share with you a couple timeless principles. Concepts are constant. Techniques vary. Now, what do I mean by that? The basics, the fundamentals will never change. What is our job description? What do you get paid for? That camel's really something over there. What do you get paid for? What you get paid for is onboarding customers and onboarding new team members. That job description never changes. Now, the techniques can vary. The concepts are constant, techniques vary. When I started back in the business, Shay and I, we had a thing called a newspaper. Anybody know what a newspaper is? We didn't have a smartphone. We didn't have social media. The phone was stuck to the wall, and it was a rotary dial, and a long-distance phone call costs money. It's like, it's long distance, get in here. We used to think we were cool when we could fax a piece of paper. Let me fax you, Shay. Let me fax this over to you. Today, with the smartphone, what a tool. You can tell the story faster, quicker, better, and build your business. You could build locally, but think globally. You can build a global business because you don't have the cost of having to physically go there like I did. I did this thing called a 90-day plan. How many know Eric Worre? Eric was in my business, in the water business, and that's where he picked up the 90-day plan. The 90-day plan, because he saw me go into areas and camp out for 90 days and go in there and take all-out massive action and physically have to go there. So what I'm saying is concepts are constant, techniques vary. The different tools, the different means and ways. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah. Until I get a mic, I can project my voice pretty good. Got another one? All right. So the techniques vary. And with the tools we have today, you can go faster, quicker, and better and build a global business without the expense of having to physically travel and camp out in these markets like I did. So let me share this with you. How many of you have heard of a concept called 80, 15, and 5? Anyone? A couple of you. What does 80, 15, and 5 mean, Jeff?
Oh my God.
I like the camel better. 80% of the people that you put on, your team, your partners, are going to do the business sometime, part-time, or no time. That's just the way it is. They're gonna do whatever they do, 80% of them. But here's my thought process. I love them whether they do a little or they do a lot. I love them just as much. But I manage those 80% by group. Now 15% are going to engage at a little higher level. They're going to step up and maybe move up the ranks a few levels. Less than 5% of the people you put on are going to be marketing director and beyond. So what does that mean? Safety in numbers, the law of averages. You've got to fill up the funnel. You've got to create what's called critical mass, where you're onboarding enough customers and team members that you'll find a few people. Now, sometimes it's not the person you personally enroll. You chase the business, right? They're not a doorway. They're an opening it up for, where you got a whole group of warm market people that you can recruit from, and the cream rises to the top. I love the fact that our marketing plan doesn't pay by levels, it pays by generations. Big difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels is a big difference in 5 generations. Because if somebody doesn't qualify, they don't count as a generation. It keeps searching down. You guys know this, what I'm talking about. I get paid sometimes 20 and 30 levels or levels down in my group because it has to search to find those qualifiers. And some of my top people have compressed up through dynamic compression in the marketing plan that were several levels down. So very, very exciting. But the 80, 15, and 5 is something that you want to stay clear on, because, I get frustrated sometimes because I want to turn everyone into a 5%er. And I'm always spotlighting my 5%ers. And I got to realize you got to have a lot of people doing a little. You want to have a base, right, Julia? A base of people that are eating and using your product. And you keep them hanging around the flagpole, because you never know when things change in their life where they might step up to 15 or might step up to 5. But you keep that funnel going. Let me share something with you here tonight. There's 4 stages that a distributor goes through, or a partner, or a team member, whatever you want to call it. There's 4 different stages. The first stage that you go through is called the production stage. The production stage is where you go out and you produce. You sign up, you're excited about the product, you got a fresh, warm market, you got a good positive attitude, and you go out and you start putting on customers and start building team, right? You're in the production stage. The business is fun, it's exciting. You're building new customers and new team all the time. But here's what happens. You start to get a few people on your team, and now all of a sudden you move into stage 2, where you become a manager. Now you're really important now, because you've got to manage your producers. God forbid you put on a new customer. You've got to manage your producers, because you're now in the management stage, and you've got a group of people that are producing. Distributors or partners or team members don't do what you tell them to do, they do what you do. So guess what some of your producers do? They start to build some team, and now they move into the management stage, because they got to manage their producers. And what stage does that push you into? Stage 3, where you become an overseer of the managers that manage the producers. Now you're really important at this stage. I mean, you got time for executive luncheons, you sleep in the morning, you don't have any new guests, you're not at the meetings, you're an overseer. What happens? Distributors do what you do, right? Now some of your producers, they move into the management, your managers move into the overseers, and that pushes you to what? Stage 4. And this is where you become an overseer of the overseers that oversee the managers that manage the producers. Now at this stage, stage 4, this is where you've really ranked up now. You've got a big organization, you've got the title, you're here in the desert, and now you're an overseer of the overseers that oversee the managers that manage the producers, right? Does this make sense? I'm telling you guys this because I looked in the mirror. I was an overseer of the overseers that was managing the producers, right? And I realized, Jeff, no matter what your rank is, no matter what your title is, your job description remains the same. And that is to produce. Always putting on new customers, always putting on new team. That's where the business is fun. that's where the business is exciting. Because if you're just an overseer of the overseers that manage the producers, now...
Can you use your mic, because the translators can't translate you.
The mic is on.
They need to hear you coming through the speakers.
Hello?
Camel. Back at you. I was just getting fired up, too. But the overseers, so what I'm saying is this. Your DMO is to always produce. To produce. To put on new customers. To onboard customers. To onboard new team. You don't want to get burned out and stressed out and the business isn't fun anymore. And some people don't want to hear this message. But when you look in the mirror, you realize, okay, Jeff, the number one recruiting tool in this business is a mirror. I've got to look at myself and say, okay, I'm the happiest. I'm having the most fun, the most joy when I'm putting on new customers and new team always. Julia's shaking her head. That's why she's number one in Europe right now. Give her a big hand. She's shaking her head on this because you know it. You got to build wide. You got to keep always building new business. How many of you heard of a lady named Cheryl Cortese? Anybody heard of Cheryl? Okay, Cheryl is like my Juice Plus wife. We are a great team together. I hook them, she cooks them. We're a great tag team. But Cheryl, this was probably 10 years ago. Her business had gotten up to a pretty significant level, her income, but it had flattened out. And some of these other women were starting to catch up and pass her. And she was making a lot of money, but her business wasn't growing at the level she wanted. And she came to me and she said, Jeff, what do I do? How do I take my business to the next level? What do I got to do to take it to the next level? And I said, Cheryl, here's what you got to do. Mentally, we got to play a game here like you're filling out your application for the first time. Brand new. Let's go back out and do what you did in the beginning that got you to marketing director and beyond, that got you here. Nothing will ignite your business than putting on 5 new front lines and going marketing director all over again. Now here's what happened. Her team, her existing team that she was working with, managing or overseeing, they were resentful. They were mad at her. What do you mean I'm not the issue? You're not going to just work with me? You're going to go over here and build a new team? She didn't ignore them. She still supported them. But you know what? It went from resentment and being angry to respect. They respected what she was doing because she started putting on new team, and her team saw that, her existing organization, and they followed what she was doing. She set the example and more than doubled her check off of that effort. So what I'm trying to say is when you stay in the production stage, when you constantly onboard new customers and new team members, your business will grow. I said it today. The finish line is the starting line. Congratulations for being here. Congratulations for qualifying for this. The journey is just beginning. I've personally broken over 40 frontline national marketing directors in my career. And that's, and I've got a lot more now with what Paul and Simon are talking about. Look at what we're going into. The whole world's going to open up for Juice Plus. So it's just a question of, are you still hungry? Do you still want it? Are you still engaged? I told you my why today. It was out of desperation when I started. Today, it's out of inspiration. I love what I do. I get to add value to people's lives. There's fulfillment, there's meaning, there's purpose. Relationships, rich in relationships, love, connection, growth. Aren't you the happiest in life when you're growing, when there's progress? I mean, don't sit at the table of success too long, because some bad habits can start to slip in. You gotta stay engaged. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure in life. We see it all the time. People that have the success, but they're not happy. Here you're rich. Emotionally, spiritually, you're part of the Juice Plus family. So I love it. Here's something else I'll share with you. As leaders, I do the basics and the fundamentals over and over again. A few simple disciplines equals multiple rewards. There's no magic dust here. There's no shiny new penny. It's called the basics. It's called the fundamentals. But one of the things that I do is when we have a big convention, a Juice Plus Live, one of our big leadership conferences, I have learned the difference between an expense and an investment. An investment, there's a return. So Paul, if I invest into a proven system, and wouldn't you say that our big leadership conferences is a proven system? It's a non-negotiable paying activity, non-negotiable as a leader. That is something that you do not take for granted. You learn to master these major impending events. So I'm out there doing the basics, doing the fundamentals, but when there's a big Juice Plus conference coming on, the World Cup, the Juice Plus Super Bowl, I load up the dance. I get a freshman class there. And what happens is they see it, they feel it, they experience it. It doesn't work all the time, but it works enough of the time that that's how your business explodes, is by building for these. So what I do is I invest into a proven system, which is the conference, and I invest into proven people. Invest back into your business. Hey, I believe in you. Sign here, win here. Let's do this together. And I'll say, look, you get yourself there. I'll pick up your conference ticket. I'll pick up your accommodations, whatever it is. And I did this in the beginning when I didn't even have the money. I invested back into my business. And I tell you what, it paid huge dividends, huge rewards. Is that something that you like? Just go like this. Yeah. Okay. All right. So building for these events, building for these conventions. I mean, really, the number one question people have got to ask themselves is, what do you got to do to make this business a bigger priority in your life? Treat it like a hobby or treat it like a business? How much does it cost to sign up to become a representative?
100.
How much?
100 euros.
100 euros. Okay? Easy to sign up, easy to do nothing. 100 euros. What if it cost you 100,000 euros? How would you treat your business? What if it cost you €1,000,000 to have your own virtual franchise or your own Juice Plus business? You would play at a higher level, is what I'm trying to say. So learn to take advantage of these tools. It's called momentum. If you do something consistently long enough, a few simple disciplines, you're going to start to establish, sustain, and advance the momentum in your business. Guys, bottom line, there's no free lunch. I can't lift your weights for you. If we go to the gym, I can't lift your weights. You've got to lift your own weights. It's not your upline's business. It's not your downline's business. Look in the mirror. If it's to be, it's up to me. And so you inspire people. Success breeds success, but these are some of the things I've done. There's 5 selves in the business. You want people to become self-responsible for their health, self-responsible for their wealth, self-motivated, self-determined, self-disciplined, and eventually self-functioning. Self-functioning. The greatest gift you can give somebody is their independence. When I was riding over here with the group from Poland, we were talking about, how long do you work with somebody, Jeff? It's really a judgment call. I do what's called tell, show, try, do. I tell them, I show them, they try it, and they're doing it, and I duplicate myself. And then I don't sit there and hold their hand and keep managing the same group. I give them their independence. Let them go so they can grow. You still support them, but you keep leading by example and putting on new business all the time. Does that make sense? Yep. Absolutely. So a couple other things here that I want to share with you is the 5 cells. Okay, for me, Shay mentioned the situation with Alex. Back in 2012, I had a a life-challenging situation. I was celebrating my 50th birthday. I was down in the Bahamas, had chartered this yacht with this other couple, and it was his 50th birthday. Long story short, when I was down there and we were snorkeling, doing a drift snorkel, I got cut up on some coral reef and got a bacteria in my blood, and it was called toxic shock, where you go, your vital organs go septic. And I found myself, I thought I was on top of the world, and I found myself in a situation where I was in ICU. It was a 911 situation where I was in the hospital and everything was shutting down. And being in the hospital and being in this situation, God gets your attention. I was humbled. And you know what I got out of this? When this happened, you don't realize, the lesson I got, Simon, is you don't realize how important your health is until you don't have it. The other thing I got is I always heard this thing about the Juice Plus family, the company with a heart. When I was in the hospital, the amount of prayers, the prayer warriors, and the amount of support that I received from the Juice Plus family, I truly believe played a role in saving my life. It really did. I'd been on the product at that time for over 20 years. My immune system had a lot of fight, and the doctors called me the miracle man. They couldn't believe that I survived this because most people don't survive it. And thank God, of course, I've recruited all the doctors and all the nurses from the hospital. But, you know, having the product and having that strong immune system really, I mean, it was unbelievable. The other lesson I got was my priorities in life were out of balance. I was so focused on work that all of a sudden I realized that my spiritual life, my family life, and my business life, I got my priorities in order going through something like this. But the other thing was, is I found that having residual income and having a business that's solid, even when I got out of the hospital and I couldn't travel that next year, I had the best year of my life, even when I was on the sidelines. I had some people say, Jeff, maybe you should just stay on the sidelines. But it was interesting because the business kept growing even when I couldn't travel. So what I'm trying to say is this. One of the other takeaways that I had as well is that year I couldn't go to the conferences, and I'd never missed a Juice Plus conference, and I wasn't able to travel. And I got the biggest lesson and the biggest takeaway from the conference that I couldn't attend because I found myself in massive pain, just in a very bad emotional place. And it was because I told these people I would be there for them, and I couldn't go when they were walking the stage. And I said, you know what, Jeff, you're better than this. Ask some better quality questions. You'll get some better quality answers. What else could this mean? And as I started asking better quality questions, what lessons can I learn? What spiritual lessons? It went to love and gratitude and appreciation. And you know what the lesson was? The conference that I couldn't go to, I got the most growth out of because I said to myself, I'll never take it for granted again. It's just not another conference, because I was missing the relationships and the growth and the contribution and being there. And it was the best lesson that I could have gotten by not going and having it taken away from you. Sometimes you don't realize how important something is until you don't have it. In 2016, I'll give you one other story. In 2016, and you know, sometimes the deepest pain in life, I've always had an attitude, you know, there's a gift in pain, and you can turn your pain into purpose, and you can get the lessons from your deepest pain sometimes will give you the most growth and more capacity to serve and make a bigger difference in the world. So look at it as a gift if you go through different problems or different challenges. And the last one I'll share with you is this. In 2015, and this is part of the journey, I lost my brother at the age of 49. massive heart attack. Now, I'd lost my dad at 46 of a heart attack, and now I've lost a brother at 49. And in 2016, I'm on the stage in Phoenix, and I'm 30 stones, 70 pounds heavier than I am today. And I remember getting off the stage, my stomach was here, my face was out here. Some of you have seen the pictures and know what I looked like back then. And I got off stage, and I'm supposed to be inspiring healthy living. And people said to me, Jeff, how's your health? How you feeling? I know what they were saying. You don't look good. You're not relevant. You're not congruent with the message. Well, when I went home from that conference and met with my doctor, my cardiologist, he said, Jeff, with your family history, with your father and your brother dying in their 40s, it's not if, it's when. It's just a matter of time. And I remember going home that night, and I'm sitting in my office, it's late at night, and I look over and I see a picture of my dad, and I start crying. And then I see a picture of my brother, and I really start crying. And then I see a vision of my mom's face, burying my brother Paulie. That was it. No more excuses. Just like when I started the business in '87, I tore up the list of excuses. I had reached a breaking point, a threshold, a moment in time, a defining moment. No longer was I going to play at this level. It's called raise your standards. Just like I did when I started the business. Same thing with the weight loss. And I said, you know what, Jeff? Why don't you live the mission? Why don't you get a new product story? Why don't you show up as an example, not a warning? Why don't you walk the talk? And so everybody says, well, what'd you do? What'd you do? What'd you do? We all know what to do. I just did what I knew to do, right? And all of a sudden, I found out that the Juice Plus Complete worked better if you actually took it off the counter, opened it, and drank it. And I started drinking the Juice Plus Complete twice a day, and I started making some lifestyle changes and some behavioral modification, and the weight started to fly off. And I went to that next conference 6 months later in St. Louis, and people saw me and they thought they saw a ghost. They couldn't believe it. And what happened is I didn't do it out of vanity. I did it because I couldn't let my mom bury a second son. And I wanted to inspire myself and live the mission so I could inspire other people to be an example, not a warning. To treat your body like a temple, not an amusement park. To go in there and say, okay, wow, this is what healthy and fit feels like. Nothing tastes as good as healthy and fit feels. And so I showed up at that next conference and people saw me. And then at the next convention, Shay, when I saw people, they all came up to me and they said, hey, Jeff, I saw you. If you can do it, I can do it. I've lost this weight. I've lost this weight. And everybody started telling me what they had done. And my success with living the mission inspired other people. And so it was very, very humbling to be able to do that and make that kind of difference. And I didn't believe it at first. You know, I remember the first time I went shopping, and I'd been used to wearing XXX shirts and baggy shirts to try and cover it and camouflage it. And I was in Canada after I'd lost all the weight, and I was in a shop, and I remember trying on clothes that were still baggy and loose. And the ladies in the shop said, that doesn't fit you. And so I got some skinny jeans and got some skinny t-shirts. And it was exciting. It was, you know, it wasn't out of vanity, but it was nice to be able to feel good about yourself again. And now I've kept that weight off since 2016, and I'm not going back, guys. It feels really good. So I guess what I wanted to say to you is this. You've got an opportunity. And when you said that about Alex today, I started thinking, wow, Jeff, in 2012, 8 years ago, you could have died. And God gave you a second chance. And you don't take that for granted. You don't let your comfort get in the way of your calling. And I truly believe everything happens for a reason, and there is a higher purpose. And that's why I'm so engaged today to inspire healthy living and to make a difference around the world. So it's getting late. We've had a long day today. I wanted to offer this, and I told Simon this. I have a beautiful guest beach house on Siesta Key Beach in Sarasota, Florida. And I told Simon that I wanted to do a contest, and he's going to put together the details over the next 90 days what that contest would be. And the top two people that qualify will come to Siesta Key as my guest, stay in the beach house, and we'll be able to spend some quality time together. So thank you. And Simon, I'll turn it back over to you, my friend. Come on back up. Give him a big hand coming up here.